Hello everyone, welcome to my Retro Media Room. Today I want to take a look at 5 Xbox 360 games that are worth checking out that are not backwards compatible on current Xbox consoles. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, hit the like button to help me with the algorithm. I really appreciate your subscription because I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Have not made a dime on these videos yet. I'm hoping to get to that point where I can, so I can bring you better content. And starting off our list is John Woo Presents Stranglehold, developed by Tiger Hill Entertainment and released by Midway. Now, the standout thing about this game is the fact that John Woo and Chow Yun-fat are involved, including their likeness and Chow Yun-fat's voice and performance. So that's very fun, especially if you're not only a John Woo fan, but you're a fan of Hard Boiled, because Tequila is the main character in Hard Boiled, and this is an extension of that universe, the only one outside of the film. So it's really interesting in that regard. So when you consider all that, this is clearly a case of a licensed game targeting a specific audience that's a fan of film, in this case, John Woo and Hard Boiled, but there's actually quite a bit of fun gameplay here, so this isn't a bad licensed outing. So you might be wondering, what other game could you compare this to, since it is a bullet time third-person shooter, so you're going to think of The Matrix, you're going to think of Max Payne, things like that. I would actually compare this more so to Dead to Rights, because this is a more over-the-top, arcade-style action game going from set piece to set piece, over-the-top destructible environments, and environmental hazards that you can inflict on your enemies, boss fights, and things like that with health meters. Visually, this game holds up quite well. I would say well above average. It is Unreal Engine 3, so there's a lot of impressive physics going on here, and that's actually the most impressive aspect. The ragdoll physics, the destructible environments and particle effects and bullet time, just the pure chaos. And while the frame rate drops quite a bit, it's perfectly understandable when you see all the stuff happening on screen at once in real time. Now, things I enjoyed about this game is certainly the bullet time, a lot of fun, very accessible, satisfying, and it regens quickly, so you're able to use it often. I really enjoyed the abilities you obtain throughout the game, such as the sharpshooter mode, which is a lot of fun, and it's very effective, so you're going to use it often. But I love the rage mode that you're able to activate, and you just mow enemies in the environment down, especially when you get dual submachine guns. A lot of fun. And it really is satisfying when you're in, say, that little tea shop and the walls are coming down around you and you're behind cover and you're aiming and shooting. It's like you really feel like you're in the middle of a Matrix-style shooting scene, or, well, Hard Boiled in this case. Some of the faults of this game stem from the fact that it leans a little bit too heavily on the arcade aspects of the gameplay, such as how enemies spawn in. It's literally just a conveyor belt of enemies that pour through, say, a doorway, and they just continuously come out the same doorway, to the point where you could just stand in front of that doorway and mow them down as they come out. That's just lazy design. I don't really care for that. I also didn't care for how you do not reload in the game. This is not Doom. This is not Wolfenstein. I think it should be more along the lines of Max Payne in that regard. Also, I don't like the fact, like The Darkness, as soon as you run out of ammo for your gun, you just drop it. I like having a personal connection to weapons I pick up, especially if I like the weapon, to where you hold on to it, you use it, you keep it, whatever the case. In this case, as soon as you run out of ammo, you drop it until you pick up another gun. Now, you can avoid this by just not going to zero on your ammo. I shouldn't have to manage that. I should be able to keep what I want to keep it and not automatically drop it. But overall, this game is fun. I really enjoyed checking it out. I plan on beating it at some point. It really is just an arcade action romp, so it is absolutely worth checking out, especially the icing on the cake is if you're a fan of John Woo, Chow Yun-fat, and Hard Boiled, I mean, you can't go wrong. You're going to have some enjoyment out of this. Even though it's not perfect, it's certainly worth checking out on Xbox 360. Up next, we're going to take a look at WWE All-Stars, developed and released by THQ. To put it simply, if you're a fan of the WWF wrestling games on the Nintendo 64, specifically WWF 2000, you're going to enjoy this game. Also, like the Nintendo 64 era, this is a streamlined experience with only so many modes in the game, which some would consider more bare bones. I actually like that it's streamlined. It's more to the point like it used to be. There's a creative wrestler mode. There's expedition modes with one-on-one against any combination you want, tag teams, cage matches, stuff like that. Survival modes and whatnot. There's not a hyper detailed story driven career modes or anything like you see nowadays, which not a big deal to me. I actually like the old school style of modes that this has. But also what's old school about it, for those of us that grew up in that era, the classic WWF wrestlers from Hulk Hogan to Undertaker, Big Show, Andre the Giant especially, that's going way back. So I really love the classic wrestlers here. That's the emphasis of this, it being WWE All-Stars. So it's across multiple eras. And in addition to that, the graphics are actually really nice here with a really smooth frame rate, good detailed textures, and the character models, while cartoonish and over the top, look really nice and are very well animated, over the top moves. When you combine it all together, it's streamlined, it's fun to pick up and play with simple controls and moves like they used to be. If you are of the Nintendo 64 era and 80s and 90s era of growing up with WWF wrestling, this is going to be a treat for you. Because honestly, I think they've gone a little bit too ham with some of these newer wrestling games, with them being more like wrestling simulators. I miss the era of Nintendo 64 where it was just straightforward, simple, pick up and play and fun. And that's what this game does. And I really enjoyed picking this up and playing it. I've really barely played it before, but I knew I was a fan of it. And picking it up again and playing it in more detail now, I really enjoyed doing that. And I plan on playing it some more. And I want to makes me want to go back and play some of the Nintendo 64 wrestling games. Next up, we have Gun, developed by Neversoft and released by Activision. So on this list, Gun is the only Xbox 360 game here that is technically an exclusive, although the first versions of the game are the previous generation on PlayStation 2 and original Xbox, but this version of the game that was upgraded from those is only on Xbox 360. For Red Dead Redemption fans, this is going to be an interesting title for you to check out because this came out after Red Dead Revolver, which is the first of the Red Dead series, but it came out before Red Dead Redemption. So it's interesting how you see that these games all borrowed from each other during this era. So what I mean by borrowing from and inspiring others, it clearly borrowed from Red Dead Revolver all the way down to some of its menu and interface fonts and sound effects, to clearly inspiring Red Dead Redemption, which came later with some of its more open world feel, horseback riding, side missions, and things like that. So this was quite literally a bridge between the two, even though it's a different developer and publisher. So if you're wanting a little bit more of the shoot 'em up style of Red Dead Revolver, but you also want some of the deeper, more open world elements of Red Dead Redemption, you're going to get a little bit of both here. But bear in mind, of course, it's not going to look as good as the likes of Red Dead Redemption because this still is an original Xbox or PlayStation 2 game upgraded to 360. So while it looks somewhat dated, it still holds up fairly well. The narrative, characters, dialogue, performances, all these things are well done and solid. They really did put some effort here into making this a living, breathing world for the time. If you're a fan of the Red Dead series, you're a fan of just Westerns in general, this is absolutely one that's worth checking out because there's not very many of them outside of the Red Dead series that are worth really seriously checking out, that are worth giving your time to. And this one actually is. I didn't play this originally back in the day. I wish I did. I was more of like into Red Dead Revolver and then into Red Dead Redemption like most people. But or a lot of people, they went straight to Red Dead Redemption. But this is a game that is absolutely worth going back and checking out, just because I love Westerns in general. And yeah, I want to see what happens in the story. Up next, we have the Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena, developed by Starbreeze Studios and released by Atari. So this is a pretty interesting release for a few reasons. First off, not only is it a re-release and remaster of Escape from Butcher Bay, which was a exclusive title on the original Xbox and Windows PC, but it's also a sequel to that game with this Assault on Dark Athena. So understanding all that, if you've never played Escape from Butcher Bay on the original Xbox and you want to know the story from beginning to end, you're going to want to start with Escape from Butcher Bay remastered on here, and then Assault on Dark Athena after that. In terms of the visuals of the 2004 version of Escape from Butcher Bay on original Xbox and PC, it was a graphical powerhouse at the time. The likes of PlayStation 2 and GameCube could never hope to run, similar to that of Half-Life 2, Doom 3, and Deus Ex Invisible War. And with it being remastered from the ground up on Xbox 360 and, of course, PlayStation 3, it's even better than it ever was before. So the remastered of Escape from Butcher Bay looks and plays fantastic. It's got a little bit of frame rate issues, but that's because they made it just as ambitious on this hardware as it was on the previous. Real-time lighting, physics, lens effects, bump mapping, the visuals are an absolute treat. And in some cases, like here in Dark Athena, there's some visuals that are just as good, if not better, than stuff you see in 2024. Also, Escape from Butcher Bay is a prequel to Pitch Black. So in the story, this is before Riddick is able to see in the dark. You actually see how he obtains the ability in the story. And that's where the bread and butter of the game really shines, is the stealth in the combat. While the combat in general is fun, whether it be fisticuffs or guns, all of that is well done. The best aspect is the stealth. And this is also where lighting is very important. Not only is it beautiful lighting, it's actually a mechanic of the game. So you're actually able to drag guys, their corpses, over to shadows where the other guards won't see them. sneak up on them as you see in the dark and they can't see you, so on and so on. But what's truly remarkable about this game is how good this is as a licensed IP, which you don't see very often. Vin Diesel did not phone this in. He's incredible. Probably my favorite performance as Riddick from him. Star-studded cast. Everybody's great in this. The story, gameplay, graphics, this has everything going for it. I would say this is a required play if you claim to be a fan of Pitch Black and Riddick as a character in the world building. I can't recommend this game enough. I love the 2004 version on the original Xbox, so this is even better. And Dark Athena is even more story because it's a sequel to that, so I need to finish that portion of it. So, yeah, this is a really fantastic game, especially if you love the character Riddick. And finally, we have X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition, developed by Raven Software and released by Activision. Yet again, we have a licensed IP here, but thankfully this is another fantastic licensed game to the point that not only is it better than the film it's derived from, but I would argue it's one of the greatest Wolverine games ever made. What's really great about this is not just a mere rehash of the film. It actually takes a lot of creative liberty to do things in its own way that's more in line with the comics. It's a mature rated game, so there's a lot of blood and gore here, particularly the way your own body gets dismembered as you receive damage from your enemies. So it's very creative, very dynamic. This is an Unreal Engine 3 game, so the visuals are quite nice, although there's some jagged edges. The frame rate takes a dip quite a bit, but you understand why when you see all the detail and everything that's going on here. It's a very ambitious game, amazing set pieces, really cool, holy crap moments of action and blood and gore, over-the-top boss fights. Wolverine is an absolute madman in this, and it's really great. The way you're able to dive at enemies and locking on to them from one to the next, and the combos, and the way you level up your character, unlocking more moves and combos and abilities and a rage mode. I mean, the list goes on with how fun this game is. This is one of the better modern hack and slash games you'll come across. Clearly, this game was inspired by God of War, so it's really a God of War Wolverine edition, which is a really good thing because, of course, God of War being known for its ferocity, polished gameplay, and fun combat, and this is no different. Clearly inspired by it in the best ways possible. I really like this game. It was praised by critics back in the day. They were very accurate to do so, so it's aged like fine wine. If you're a fan of God of War and X-Men or both, this is a fine addition you could add to your library. It's worth checking out. It's unfortunate it's not backwards compatible because that would be absolutely dope if it were, but it's not. So at the very least, it's really great on the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 if that's all you have. So that was 5 Xbox 360 games I wanted to take a look at. And then these two being really surprising how amazing they are as licensed games. You don't see that very often. But I appreciate you watching up to this point. Please like and subscribe. God bless, and you have a nice day.